A new surprising twist to ensure you get your second stimulus check if you're on SSDI, SSI, or Social Security. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update for today. Our first of 5 stimulus package updates for today coming up later today: hazard pay, PUA and unemployment benefits, rental assistance, and EIDL. But this video focuses on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and new numbers from the White House about jobs numbers today. But first, let me turn to SSDI, SSI, and Social Security. As you know, this channel has been detailing the importance of what you need to tee up to ensure you get a second stimulus check if you are one of those individuals. But unbeknownst to me, I realized another nuance overnight that is so critical and so important that you need to ensure that this situation is teed up correctly as well. If you recall, earlier in this week when I was doing SSDI and SSI videos, I explained to you the following. The current status for the second stimulus package is the HEROES Act. It's a bill passed by the House, passed by the Democrats, that's currently in the Senate. Certainly the Senate can butcher it and change it and move it around and come up with a new bill. That's certainly still on the table. But under the HEROES Act as proposed, people on SSDI, SSI, and Social Security would get a second stimulus check. Now, there's something for you to be attentive about, however, that I didn't think about until last night. Let me back up. Earlier this week, I talked about under the CARES Act. Remember the CARES Act from March, the bill that created the first stimulus check? It established 2 things that you need to remember. 1, who gets the check, and 2, how it's delivered. I went through the whole nuance of how it's delivered earlier this week. I told you that the importance of having a bank account if it's being sent by direct deposit. I told you the importance of whether or not you have gone on SSDI or SSI for the first time this year. It all triggered a lot of different things for the type of delivery. That's different than whether or not you get the check. That's assuming you would get the check. Well, suddenly something triggered last night, and I realized that a lot of the comments you dropped, people said they never got a first check, but are on second SSDI or SSI. So what could have happened? And let me explain to you the difference between the CARES Act and the HEROES Act as to SSDI and SSI. And this is very important. I want you to focus on it. The way the HEROES Act is currently written, anyone who is 17 years or age of or older and is claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return will get a second stimulus check. That check will be $1,200 per household, up to 3 dependents. This is very important. Let me explain why this is so important for people on SSDI and SSI and Social Security. Under the CARES Act, the one back in March, the first stimulus package, if you were a dependent at the time, if you were listed as a dependent on someone else's tax return and were over age 17, you did not qualify for a stimulus check under the CARES Act, the March bill that became law. Why? There was a gap, a mistake, an error in the way they wrote the CARES Act that said that anyone back in March for the first stimulus check who is listed as dependent on someone else's tax return and is 17 years or older would not get a stimulus check. An example is something like, for example, if I had a grandmother and I listed my grandmother on my tax return as my dependent, and she's, let's say, 80 years or 90 years of age, she, under the CARES Act, would not get a stimulus check. Moreover, if I had a son who is 18 years of age and at college, he also would not get a stimulus check, anything. But if I had a daughter who was 14 years old, she would get a stimulus check. Here is the difference with what's coming up with the second stimulus package. Under the HEROES Act, the second stimulus package, the second stimulus check, everyone who is a dependent on someone else's tax return and is 17 years of age or older will get a second stimulus check. So what you need to do in watching this video, which is so important, I mean, this is really, really critically important, is understand if you're on SSDI or SSI or Social Security, are you a dependent on someone else's tax return? So go ask in your household, whether it's your son or daughter or someone else, am I a dependent on your tax return? If the answer is yes, then you need to then ask, how many dependents are on your tax return? Here's the other rub. Under the HEROES Act, it'll pay a person who's a dependent like you, potentially on someone else's tax return, $1,200, but only up to 3 dependents. So for example, if you and 4 others are on someone else's tax return as all dependents, that person has 4 dependents on a tax return, one of the dependents won't get a check because only 3 dependents on an individual tax return will get a stimulus check under the second stimulus package. So here's that nuance, and this is really quite important. Here's that nuance that I didn't realize until I saw the comments. And you know what also triggered it was I got a very, very kind message from someone privately overnight who is a dependent, who is a person on SSDI and did not receive a first stimulus check. Well, the answer is that dependent will get a second stimulus check, provided that there's not more than 3 dependents on that person's second tax return. The next, and you recall basically what I went over 2 days ago was, hey, there are other things you need to ensure that you get the second stimulus check. But here I'm talking about just the eligibility. So viewers have asked, I'm on SSDI, I'm on SSI. Will I get a second stimulus check? Under the HEROES Act, yes, absolutely. If you file your own tax return, yes, absolutely. If someone else files a tax return for you as a dependent, you will also get a second stimulus check. But you have to ensure that that person doesn't have more than 2 other dependents on that tax return. The next thing to understand is the routing of the second stimulus check if you're on SSDI and SSI. This is new information. This is on top of everything that I detailed for you over the last 2 days. First, if you are a dependent on someone else's tax return, and you are 17 years of age or older, and you are on SSDI and SSI, the check may get routed to the address of the person who's listing you as a dependent. So, for example, if you live at one place, but your son or daughter lists you as a dependent on their tax return, the SSDI check, the second stimulus check may get routed to the address of the person who lists you as a dependent. Why? Because the IRS is basically, or the Treasury in issuing the second stimulus check, is going off of that person's address on the tax return that lists you as a dependent. There's another nuance. This is all new stuff. I mean, I'm going for all the details to ensure that my viewers who are on SSDI and SSI understand how and where they get their checks. The next one is that for some disability recipients who have representative payees, the IRS deposited an SSI or SSDI first stimulus check into that representative payee's bank account or sent the payee a check. So if you have a representative payee for purposes of SSDI and SSI, your second stimulus check may get routed to that representative payee. So you need to be in communications with that representative payee. For the first stimulus check, if you were eligible, and if that representative payee went through all the steps they had to, and you had a representative payee in March, that representative payee may have your first stimulus check. So refer to them. A lot of details there. As you see, this channel is really trying to ensure that when we get close to the nuance, the establishment, and the enactment of the law for the second stimulus check, that you, the person on SSDI, SSI, or Social Security, understand, one, that you're eligible, two, that you have everything ready and teed up to receive the check. I don't want you to not do anything, because in some cases we saw from March, doing nothing will ensure that you don't get the check. So I'm going to be guiding you through this process. It's important that you stay with me, subscribe to this channel. Thank you for the 10,000 new subscribers overnight. I mean, it's just incredible, because I'm here to ensure that you get your check if you're eligible, and at the moment you are eligible. Let me get to the financial news today, which is just jaw-dropping. I mean, we had really told you that the jobs report was coming out today and it was going to be a big issue. But when we said that, we thought, okay, we're just going to be talking about the jobs report when we go to record on Thursday. Oh no. What happened after the jobs report was issued was that both the president and, surprisingly, Joe Biden came out and all started talking about what? Second stimulus checks based upon the jobs report. Let me explain to you what today's report said and what the report is for. So today's jobs report talks about new jobs created in the month of June. There's two problems with the report. First, it's 2 weeks delayed. Second, it's only as to new jobs. These include both permanent and temporary jobs. It includes jobs that may have started in June or gone again. So there we go. As you know, we detailed yesterday in this channel that going into today's jobs report, the prediction was about 2.9 million new jobs. That was the prediction. Well, the number came in 4.8 million new jobs. Really blew the number out of the water. It's very, very high. It's a very good number. Unemployment rate fell to 11.1%, which is an improvement from the 12.4% unemployment. So what does that mean? So last month, the new job claims in May was 2.7 million new jobs. This month in June, last month in June, 4.8 million jobs. Now, here is the importance for purposes of a second stimulus check. Immediately, what happened is what I expected. The Republicans said that this is a great number and that we are on our way to a great, robust economy. The Democrats on the other side said, no, this does not indicate that we are out of the woods yet. And in the middle of the ground was Wall Street, which said, hey, it's a good number, but it doesn't reflect what's happening today. Let me go over the reaction, how this is important for a second stimulus check. First, the president's reaction. Today's announcement proves our economy is roaring back. It's coming back extremely strong. These are historic numbers. They're great. They're good numbers for new jobs. They are also historically bad numbers, and I will get to them in a second. Michael Pierce, who's a U.S. economist at Capital Economists, said the 4.8 million rise in non-farm payrolls provide further confirmation that the economic rebound is far faster. It still leaves, however, unemployment 9.6% below even February's level. And with the spread of the virus accelerating, we expect the recovery here to be a lot bumpier. So Wall Street is saying, hey, it's good. It is not an indication of where we're going. Here is other reaction. Steve Blitz, who's a chief economist at TS Lombard, said the slowdown is going to have an impact. Absolutely. There's a lot of unknowns. It's silly on the fiscal side to pull back on stimulus. There you go. So what does this mean that? It basically says that new jobs were created in June, which we knew was the case. More jobs were created in the month of June than expected, which is also great news. But it doesn't reflect what's happening now. It doesn't reflect, in fact, what's happened in the last 2 weeks because the jobs numbers are delayed by 2 weeks. First, it doesn't reflect shutdowns. Shutdowns are all over the place. Since my recording yesterday, California issued massive new shutdowns. Restaurant in-house dining shut down. Amusements shut down. Almost everything in the state was shut down with the exception of retail, essential, and gyms overnight by the governor of California. Second, it doesn't reflect the spread of COVID-19 cases. 44,000 new COVID-19 cases per day, record number. Third, it doesn't reflect where unemployment claims are. If you look at unemployment numbers, we're actually still at the worst consecutive month on record since the Great Depression. The president says manufacturing looks like it's ready to take off to a new level I've never seen. A lot has to do with our trade policy. So much for manufacturing, but that's really not indicative of what's happening with unemployment. Representative Fred Keller, who is a Republican, says the great American comeback has happened. It's really misguided, and here's where this impacts a second stimulus check, and you know where I'm going with this. Republicans may inherently, when they come back for vacation in July, because they don't take enough vacations, may say, hey, the economy's so great, we don't need a second stimulus package. Whereas the Democrats will say, wait a second, you're relying upon June data, how about July data? The good news is we will have July data by the time in which a second stimulus package is debated. And that second stimulus package may get the following reaction, which is Joe Biden's reaction. Make no mistake, we're still in a deep hole. For everyone who's lost their job, hasn't come back, for everyone who doesn't own a stock, who can't get a sweetheart loan through connections, does this feel like a victory? I personally love the statement about a sweetheart loan. I mean, the first stimulus package was just ripe with sweetheart deals left and right, whether it was SBA or the Fed, and I am just exhausted and tired from people from both parties saying that everything is so punky-dory because big business got what they wanted. Well, guess what? Big business hasn't reopened. Big business hasn't hired people. Hotels, retails are shut down. So I don't want to hear what big business got. I want to hear what Americans got. The viewers of this channel, the viewers who are on SSDI or SSI, the viewers who are unemployed. For parents who are worried that their kids can't go back to school in the fall, do you feel like this is a mission accomplished, says Biden? For the people in states where COVID-19 is spiking, is this a victory? Of course not. People are scared. They're worried about their future. What I'm worried about is economic numbers. And you, the viewers of this channel, unemployment numbers. See, when we talk about jobs numbers from today, we're talking about new jobs. But these could be temporary jobs. The jobs numbers released every month include a lot. They don't talk about unemployment claims. And that's what this channel has been hammering, and I'm sure that's what a second stimulus package will hammer. Unemployment claims are at a 14th week of 1 million new claims per week. An unheard of number. No one has ever heard of a number like that. So to say that jobs have been created, we don't know the quality of the jobs. And moreover, this channel has detailed that in Europe, that type of data was also not reliable. They call them zombie numbers, where people may have a few hours to go back to work, and that is classified as a job for purpose of a new job report. But that's not a job that can pay their bills. You may have had a few hours to work in the last week. That would qualify as a new job in the job support, but it's not something that pays your bills. It's not something that pays your electricity. It's not something that pays your rent. And so ultimately, a second stimulus check will help you. What's still on the table is six stimulus checks of $2,000 each, or as I could otherwise say, a $2,000 stimulus check for 6 months, one check every 6 months, or until the pandemic improves, or until unemployment drops, whichever is later. The Portman plan, $400 per week on top of your weekly salary, whether you're partially employed or fully employed. And the Brady plan, $1,200 on top of what you get on a weekly benefit. And then we have everything else: FPUC, rent assistance, hazard pay, and those are all coming up in stimulus check videos later today. As always, save LA for more.